be seated. I want to take a moment and just say our reading from Swedenborg, some may find it confusing. He's a difficult person to read. And one of the things that's confusing about it is he talks about demons and stuff. And in this day and age, let's be clear, we don't like to talk about demons and that sort of thing because we're all rationalists, and the idea of demons interfering with our lives, we don't like to even think about that. But over the, well, we'll say history of the human race, how different are we as actual people? Are we that better than people who lived 2,000 years ago? The Bible's talking about people running around with demons. Where'd they go? Well, I have to say, they're probably around more than you think. But one of the things we can talk about is this idea, not of the demon being this otherly, worldly spirit that's controlling people like in The Exorcist, but what if the demon is an aspect of ourselves? It's basically our selfishness taking control. And in extreme forms, it would appear as if we were under demonic possession, maybe. Swedenborg is talking about how to be a loving person. And he's talking about how we have these two natures, our inner and outer nature, and anyone who doesn't have an inner monologue from time to time they don't want to talk about is probably normal. We probably all have times when we sit down and want to make ourselves the center of creation itself. Why is the world so bad? It's not working for me. We flip the world on its shoulders and we want to stand on top of it. Rather than being part of the glory of creation, we want to be the purpose of creation. But that's where Swedenborg's actually going with this. Now I want to talk a little bit about miracles in the Gospels. What is the miracle that we hear about today? The first response everybody has is healing the sick. Because none of us want to be sick, right? None of us want our family members to be sick. So our own concept of mortality makes us say, wow, Jesus healed all these people. But I was reading this and something else stood out to me. Jesus made it so the demons didn't speak. Now in popular culture, in television shows, movies, and whatnot, even in The Exorcist, as the priest is trying to cast the demon away, what does the demon do pretty freely? Oh, they run their mouth like you would not believe. They say all sorts of crazy things. Sometimes insulting. Sometimes things that give you an R rating. Jesus was able to make the demons be quiet. Now, I'm not saying I think the movies are real. Are they? Wait. No, the movies aren't real. However, I can tell you in my head, the voices that I use to cut myself down, the demonic voices saying, I'm not good enough, the negative statements that I use more often than not to come to my own self-opinion, how good am I at getting those voices to quiet down? Now, maybe nobody has them besides me, in which case I'm probably headed towards a straitjacket or something, but I actually think my experience is pretty normal. A lot of people struggle with doubt, with fear. A lot of people struggle thinking to themselves things like, when I was born, I thought I would be great, and now I'm just blah, blah. Everybody wants to be president, right? I never did. With the young kids play, right? Everybody had a dream. Some of the people here maybe got it. I want to be a singer. I certainly tell you, I never said I want to be a minister, man. That was not the height of my dreams growing up. I'm a minister's kid. I saw what my dad went through. That was not what I wanted. I wanted to be a fireman when I grew up. Okay, I did that. Turned out not to be as exciting as I thought. It turned out, in fact, for me, the things that meant the most to me were the things that I actually, when I was a kid, didn't want to do at all. Kind of topsy-turvy in my situation. But don't worry, throughout all of that, whether or not it was going through fire academies, schools, seminaries, relationships, work, I always had that good voice there telling me, Kevin, you're never going to be good enough. The problems are too big for you. I had little thoughts in my head and I wouldn't want to share them. You see, the demons were speaking loudly, and I never wanted to actually stop them. Because the way you stop the demon voice, the negative opinions, is to bring them in front of what is loving and what is true and what is good. You cast them against the simple fact that you are important enough to be created by God. There we go. You were important enough to be created by God. You have a purpose, you have a point. And the biggest problem is when you determine what you think it is that you should be doing, you might be going the wrong direction. If you start saying, I'm not good enough because I am not the President of the United States, you might be missing the point of your life. Sometimes, if we calm our hearts and calm our minds, and we listen to what other people are saying, maybe sometimes, most of the people who we're friends with and most of our families have a higher opinion than ourselves than we do. The love that you have been given is being given back to you. But the real question is, are you willing to close down the voices, to hear the love that you have given be returned? A lot of people are not. It's a struggle, don't get me wrong. I still struggle with it, and I'm even aware that this is going on. I will not allow the demons to start talking. I'm always finding some way to make myself less. The secret, the lies that we tell ourselves, these exist when we don't bring them into life. When we don't share them with someone. When we don't go to families, to friends, to counselors. When we don't share those struggles, we don't bring them to light, and we lose the ability to have God's presence. God's presence silence those voices for us. When I was in seminary training, I had to do something called clinical pastoral education. They make everything sound academic and difficult. It was simply going to a hospital and being a chaplain to patients. And at one point I was asked by the department head to fix his computer for him. I said, sure, no problem. Rather than do start my rounds, I'll go and just do that. I fixed his computer. And he said, if I do it, I have to wait 2 weeks for the hospital to fix it. If you could just do it, it'd be great. So I went and did it. I came back and said, thank you, Kevin. I said, oh, it's not a problem. It's easy to do. I never have, it's a second thought. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go and wait. He said, Kevin, why can't you take a compliment? You have to explain away anytime someone says something good about you. Why can't you take a compliment? So here's our homework for the week. Silence the voices. Pay attention to the compliments and the nice things that are being said about you, and rather than explaining them away, rather than saying they're no problem, rather than trying to find some way to downplay them, try accepting them. and saying thank you. Try to do something to listen to the way in which love is being given to you, and find a way to accept it, to silence the voice, to put those demons in bay, that we may touch the hem